Okay, Baruch Shechiyanu v'kimanu v'kiyanu la'azman hazeh to start Seder Nezikin, Masechtas Bava Kama, the second half of Shas. So Bava Kama starts off, and we're sponsored by the Fisher family, L'nishmas Basi Bas Rabbi Shlomo ben Avram Alevi, Perel Bas Ruvain, L'nishmas Rav Moshe ben Rav David, and Shlomo ben Mordechai Dov, and the full Shalema for Yomis for the Schutz of Avram Yom Ben Shmamal Yudis and family, by Yod Klugman and family for their Gesund Parnas and Achas, the full Shalema for Avigdaya ben Rivka, and for Meir ben Chaya Sarah. So Arba Avos Nezikin, there are four principal damagers. They are Hashar, which the Gemara tells us is the mazik of regel, which is when a shar damages in its normal way of doing things, like when it walks and steps on things. Vabar, bar is a pit. If an animal or a human hurts themselves in a pit, we'll see. We'll learn now an animal, shar v'lo adam, chamar v'lo kelim. V'amave, mave is the hezek known as shein, that an animal damages in the course of having benefit, like when it eats, or when it scratches itself against a wall. V'ahever, and fire. So those are the four principles. And now the Mishna goes on to tell us that if the Torah would say one, we wouldn't know the other. So lo yari ashar kahari amava. The hezek of regel is different than the hezek of shein, because regel happens all the time with a frequency. Animal is always walking. The hezek of shein is only when the animal is hungry. When the animal is not hungry, it doesn't do it. Lo yari amava kahari ashar. There's a quality by shein that the animal gets benefit from what it does. But when the animal walks on something and breaks it, it gets no benefit. And both shar and mava are sheyesh bem ruach chayim, that have a spirit of life. The animal has a spirit of life. Kari ha'esh, like fire, she'ein bo ruach chayim. It doesn't have the spirit of life. Both shar, mava, and eish, shedarkon leilach lahazik. They're mobile, and they go to do damage. Kari abar, like a bow, which is stationary. Shein darka leilach lahazik. It doesn't go to do damage. Whether it's a bar or a banana peel, that's not mobile. What's the common denominator? Hatzara shavish ben. The common denominator is shedarkon lahazik. That all of these things do cause damage. Now, not necessarily with the same frequency, like we pointed out. Shar is more frequent than mave, but they do damage. It's a normal thing that they cause damage, and therefore you should know to make sure your item doesn't do such damage. And therefore, it's your obligation to guard it, that it shouldn't do damage. If it does damage, chava mazik, then it's the responsibility of the owner of this damager, l'shalom tashlumei nezek, to pay for the damage, b'meitav aretz, from the best of his fields. That means that even though for ksuvas isha we pay from zibarius, and for a bal chayv we pay from beinanis, but for damages we pay from meitav, from the very best. Mishna Beis tells us, Kol shechafti b'shmirasai, if I'm required to watch something, then hiksharti es niskai, then it's considered like I prepared the damage, because I didn't watch it properly. Hiksharti b'miksas niskai, there are times where I only prepare part of the damage, and yet chavti b'tashlumim, I'm required to pay the damage ke'efshir kol niskai, as if I did the whole thing. You see, a bar is only chayiv if the animal dies, if it's 10 tvachim. So if, let's say, Rebellia dug a bore of 9 tvachim, and then I dug another tefach, making it now deadly. So even though I was hirsharti b'miksas neskei, I only did 1 tefach, chafti b'tashlumim, I'm required to pay kehersher kol neskei. It's not that we share the damage, because until it was 10, it was nothing. So when I do part of it, just did a tefach, I'm responsible for the whole damage. When am I responsible? Nechasim she'ein ba'amila. If it's not hektish. We learn out from a pasuk, re'ehu v'lo shel hektish. So I'm only chayiv if it's property that doesn't have the lav of me'ilah, of trespass. But if it's property that has me'ilah, so then I'm not going to be chayiv. Nechasim shel b'nei bris. It has to be property owned by a Jew. Nechasim amiyuchadim. It has to be property that's designated to me from the time it did damage until when the verdict is issued. If before the verdict was issued, I was mafkarit, or I dedicated it to hektish, I wouldn't be chayiv. Ubekol makam, and I'm chayiv wherever it damages, chutz mirishus amiyuchedes lamazik. If my animal damages your animal because it wandered without permission into my property, then I'm not chayiv. Because what are you doing in my property? So if it's miyuchedes lamazik, so then I'm not going to be chayiv, because sharcha b'chatzirei, my boy, what is your shar doing in my courtyard? Ureshus hanizik v'amazik. Now this is talking about, let's say, I and my shver jointly own a property, and my animal eats his fruit. I'm not going to be chayiv, because shein and regel is only chayiv if it's bier b'stei acher, if it goes into another field. Since we own the property jointly, it's not b'stei acher, and therefore I'll be potter. This is not true with the damage of keren, where it gores, then I would be chayiv. Ukishehizik, this is a repetition. The Gemara talks about why it's a repetition. But ukishehizik, when my animal does damage, chavamazik, I, the owner of the damaging animal, is chayiv l'shalem, to pay tashlumei nezik, for the payment of the damage, b'meitav ha'aretz, from the very best of my land. Chanani ben Akash Amar Ratzah Kadosh Baruch Hu L'Zakar Yisrael.